Last Tuesday, I watched a 67-year-old woman break down in tears when she discovered that the vitamin she'd been taking religiously for 10 years, the one she thought was protecting her heart, was actually putting her at serious risk for stroke. Her name is Margaret Williams, and she's about to teach you something that could save your life. You see, Margaret did everything right. Every morning at 6:30 a.m., she'd line up her 7 vitamins on her kitchen counter, each one carefully researched and chosen for a specific reason. Fish oil for heart health, calcium for strong bones, vitamin D for immunity, and her prized vitamin E, 400 IU, which she'd been taking faithfully for over 10 years after reading about its cardiovascular benefits. I know Margaret personally because I've been treating patients like her for over 20 years. She walked 3 miles every morning through her neighborhood, filled her refrigerator with fresh vegetables and lean proteins, and maintained energy levels that made friends 20 years younger envious. "I'm doing everything right," she'd tell her daughter Sarah during their weekly phone calls. "I'm not going to be one of those seniors who just lets their health slide." Margaret's dedication was inspiring. She tracked her steps, monitored her blood pressure at home, and never missed her annual physical. For 12 years, our appointments were cheerful affairs. Congratulations on excellent cholesterol, praise for her active lifestyle, and encouragement to keep doing whatever you're doing. But this particular Tuesday morning changed everything. Margaret sat in my examination room, expecting another routine visit, another clean bill of health. When I entered with her lab results, I had to deliver news that would shake her to her core. "Margaret, I need to talk to you about your blood work. Everything looks good overall, but there's something unexpected that we need to discuss." Her hands clasped together. "What is it?" "Your blood clotting time is significantly prolonged. It's not dangerous right now, but it's putting you at increased risk for bleeding and potentially for stroke." The words hit Margaret like a physical blow. Stroke? But she was the picture of health. She did everything right. She took her vitamins, exercised, ate well. "I don't understand," Margaret said. "How is that possible?" I had to ask her about her supplements. As Margaret recited her carefully curated vitamin routine, I began to understand what was happening. When she mentioned her daily 400 IU of vitamin E, the pieces fell into place. "Margaret, I think I know what's happening. Your vitamin E, the one you've been taking so faithfully to protect your heart, it's actually increasing your stroke risk." Margaret felt the world tilt. But I researched it. I read about the benefits. I've been taking it for 10 years. "And that's exactly the problem," I explained. "Margaret, it wasn't the vitamin E itself that was the issue. It was the one thing you didn't know you were missing." Margaret stared at me, her mind racing. One thing? What could she possibly be missing? She'd been so careful, so thorough. If you're watching this right now, perhaps nodding along and thinking about your own vitamin routine, I want you to stay with me because what I'm about to share could change how you think about vitamins forever. And if this story is already making you think about someone you love, hit that subscribe button right now because Margaret's story isn't unique. In fact, it's happening to thousands of health-conscious seniors every single day. And the solution is simpler than you might think. But first, we need to understand how Margaret, and possibly you, fell into this well-intentioned trap.
To understand how Margaret ended up in this situation, I need to take you back to where it all began, and it's probably a story you'll recognize. 3 years ago, Margaret's sister Helen suffered a minor heart attack. The family was shaken, and Margaret became determined to prevent the same fate. She spent hours researching online, reading health magazines, and consulting with friends who'd been through it all. That's when she discovered vitamin E. Every Sunday evening, Margaret would sit at her dining room table with her weekly pill organizer, You know the one, with the little compartments labeled Monday through Sunday. She'd carefully count out each supplement, feeling a sense of pride and control with every pill she placed. This wasn't just about taking vitamins. This was about taking charge of her destiny. Prevention is better than cure, she'd tell anyone who'd listen. And she was right, except for one crucial detail she didn't know. You see, Margaret had fallen into the same trap that millions of health-conscious seniors fall into every year. She believed what most of us believe, that vitamins are nature's insurance policy. That if a little is good, a consistent amount over time must be better. That natural means safe, always. This isn't Margaret's fault, it's what we've all been taught. Walk into any pharmacy and you'll see shelves lined with bottles promising vitality, energy, and protection. The marketing is compelling, the testimonials are convincing, and the logic seems sound. Why wouldn't you want to give your body extra nutrients? I've had countless patients over the years who've shared Margaret's philosophy. They arrive at appointments with their carefully curated supplement lists printed from health websites, recommended by friends, or chosen based on magazine articles. They're proactive, they're informed, and they're genuinely trying to do the right thing. But here's what I've learned in my 20 years of practice. The human body after 60 doesn't follow the same rules as the human body at 30 or 40. Our kidneys process differently, our liver metabolizes differently, and our blood chemistry responds differently. What worked for decades can suddenly become a liability. Margaret's vitamin E routine was textbook perfect, according to everything she'd read. She took 400 IU daily, never missed a dose, and bought from a reputable company. She even chose the natural form over synthetic because she'd read that was better. She was doing everything the articles and websites told her to do. If you're nodding along right now, thinking about your own vitamin routine or recognizing this pattern in someone you love, hit that notification bell. Because what we're uncovering today might surprise you as much as it surprised Margaret. The problem wasn't Margaret's dedication or her research. The problem was that she was working with incomplete information. She knew vitamin E was a powerful antioxidant. She knew it could help protect against heart disease. She knew it was fat-soluble and stored in the body. But what if everything we thought we knew about this particular vitamin was only half the story? What if the very quality that makes vitamin E so beneficial, its ability to prevent blood clots, could also make it dangerous under certain circumstances? Margaret was about to learn that in the world of supplements, context is everything. And the context that mattered most was the one thing no one had ever told her to consider. Looking back now, I can see that Margaret's body had been trying to warn her for weeks. But like so many of my patients, she'd become an expert at explaining away the signs. It started with the bruising. Margaret first noticed it when she bumped into her kitchen counter. Nothing dramatic, just a light contact that shouldn't have left a mark. But 3 days later, a dark purple bruise spread across her hip, larger than her palm. I must have hit it harder than I thought, she told herself, applying ice and moving on with her day. Then came the nosebleeds. Margaret had never been prone to them, but suddenly she'd wake up with dried blood on her pillowcase or find herself reaching for tissues during her morning walks when the cold air hit her face. It's just the dry air, she rationalized, purchasing a humidifier for her bedroom. Soon after, Margaret started noticing she felt unusually tired after activities that used to energize her. Her weekly grocery shopping left her exhausted. Her book club meetings, which she'd always looked forward to, began feeling like an effort. "I'm 67, she told her daughter Sarah during one of their calls. "I guess this is what getting older feels like?" But the incident that really worried her happened just a few weeks later. Margaret was preparing dinner for her son's family when she accidentally nicked her finger with a paring knife, a tiny cut that should have stopped bleeding within minutes. Instead, she found herself applying pressure for nearly 20 minutes, going through multiple bandages as the bleeding continued. "Mom, maybe you should see Dr. Alex," her daughter-in-law suggested gently. Margaret brushed off the concern. "It's just a deep cut. I'm fine." Here's what I've learned over the years. Our bodies are constantly communicating with us, but we're often too busy or too afraid to listen. Margaret's symptoms weren't random. They were connected, building a clear picture that I would later piece together from her lab results. The unusual bruising meant her blood wasn't clotting properly. The nosebleeds were another sign of impaired clotting function. The prolonged bleeding from minor cuts was her body's way of showing that something had shifted in her blood chemistry. Even her fatigue was related. When your blood can't carry oxygen efficiently due to clotting issues, everything becomes more exhausting. But Margaret did what most of us do. She adapted. She became more careful around furniture to avoid bumps. She kept tissues handy for unexpected nosebleeds. She started taking afternoon naps to combat the fatigue. She was managing symptoms instead of addressing the cause. When Margaret finally came in for her annual physical, she almost didn't mention these incidents. They seemed so minor, so explainable. It was only when I specifically asked about any unusual symptoms that she casually mentioned a few more bruises than usual and maybe some tiredness. I ordered her routine blood work, expecting the usual excellent results. Margaret left that day feeling confident, even a little proud of how well she was managing her health concerns. But when those lab results landed on my desk 2 days later, I immediately understood what had been happening. The numbers told a story that Margaret's symptoms had been trying to tell for weeks. Her PT-INR levels, the measure of how long blood clots, were dangerously elevated. Her platelet function was compromised. Her bleeding time was more than double what it should have been for someone her age. The numbers on that lab report would reveal a hidden danger that had been building for weeks, and it all traced back to that one vitamin she'd been taking so faithfully to protect her health.
When I called Margaret with her lab results, I could hear the confusion in her voice immediately. "But Dr. Alex, I don't understand. I take such good care of myself. I don't take any blood thinners. I'm not on any medications that would cause this." "Margaret," I said gently, "tell me about your vitamin E again. How much do you take, and for how long?" 400 IU every morning with breakfast. I've been taking it for over 10 years. It's supposed to be good for my heart. I researched it thoroughly. There it was, the missing piece of the puzzle. "Margaret, your vitamin E is a blood thinner, and it's been thinning your blood for a decade." The silence on the other end of the phone was deafening. When Margaret finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. "That's impossible. It's a vitamin. It's natural. It's supposed to protect me." I could hear the devastation in her voice, and my heart went out to her. Margaret had done everything she thought was right. She'd researched, she'd been consistent, she'd chosen quality supplements, but she'd been working with incomplete information. "Margaret, let me explain what's been happening in your body," I said. "Vitamin E is indeed heart-healthy, but it works by preventing blood clots. It interferes with platelet function. That's how it protects against heart attacks and strokes caused by clots." "But that's good, right?" Margaret asked, still trying to process this revelation. "It can be. But here's what happens when you take high doses consistently over years. Your blood becomes progressively thinner. What started as heart protection slowly became a bleeding risk." Margaret was quiet for a long moment. "So my bruising, my nosebleeds, the cut that wouldn't stop bleeding, all signs that your blood had become too thin," I confirmed. But here's where the story gets even more concerning. As I continued reviewing Margaret's complete health picture, I discovered the one thing that had pushed her from safe to dangerous territory. "Margaret, do you take anything for aches and pains? Maybe aspirin for your knees after your walks?" "Well, yes," she said slowly. "I take a baby aspirin every few days when my joints are sore.
But that's just a tiny dose. There it was, the missing piece that had turned Margaret's well-intentioned health routine into a perfect storm. Margaret had been taking 2 blood-thinning substances simultaneously without realizing it. Her daily vitamin E was already thinning her blood, and the periodic aspirin, even in small doses, was amplifying that effect. It was like pressing the gas pedal while the brakes were already on. "Margaret, I need you to understand something," I said carefully. "Your dedication to your health hadn't failed you, but you were missing crucial information about how these substances interact, especially at your age." I could hear her intake of breath. "What do you mean, at my age?" This is the part that no one talks about, Margaret. After 60, our bodies process these substances differently. Your liver metabolizes vitamin E more slowly now than it did when you were 50. Your kidneys clear aspirin less efficiently. What your body could handle easily at 45 becomes potentially dangerous at 67. Margaret realized that her dedication to her health had unknowingly put her at risk. The vitamins she'd been taking faithfully, the research she'd done, the consistency she'd maintained, all of it had been based on information that didn't account for her changing physiology. "I feel so stupid," Margaret said quietly. "Margaret, you're not stupid. You're one of thousands of health-conscious seniors who've fallen into this same trap. The problem isn't your dedication, it's that the information you were given was incomplete." This is what I see in my practice every day. Patients who've been taking the same supplements for years, not realizing that their 60-year-old bodies don't respond the same way their 40-year-old bodies did. They're following advice that was true for younger adults, but potentially dangerous for their current age. Margaret's case was particularly concerning because high-dose vitamin E doesn't just thin your blood. It can actually increase stroke risk in seniors through a completely different mechanism. While it prevents clotting strokes, it can increase the risk of bleeding strokes, especially when combined with other blood-thinning substances. "So what do I do now?" Margaret asked, and I could hear the fear in her voice. "Now, Margaret, we fix this. And the solution is simpler than you think."
After our phone call, Margaret came in for a follow-up visit. She was calm, but I could see the concern behind her eyes. "I just don't understand how this all added up," she said. "I thought I was being careful." She was. But the truth is, past a certain age, being careful has to include one more thing: understanding how the body changes after 60. Here's what I explained to her and what I want to share with you now. As we grow older, our bodies don't handle vitamins the same way they did when we were younger. It's not just about digestion, it's about how our liver, kidneys, and blood system work together. After 60, these systems slow down in small ways that can have big effects when you're taking strong supplements every single day. Vitamin E is a fat-soluble vitamin. That means your body stores it, especially in fatty tissue. Unlike water-soluble vitamins, which you urinate out if you get too much, fat-soluble ones build up. Over time, those levels can climb higher than you realize, especially if you're also eating a healthy diet that already contains vitamin E. That alone isn't always dangerous, but here's where the risk begins to rise. Vitamin E naturally makes your blood a little thinner. It does this by interfering with something called platelet aggregation. In simple terms, it makes it harder for blood cells to stick together and form clots. That's why it's often promoted as heart healthy, because it can help prevent clots that lead to heart attacks. But as you get older, and especially when you take other substances that thin the blood, like aspirin, ibuprofen, or even herbs, your blood can become too thin. That's exactly what happened to Margaret. Her liver wasn't clearing the vitamin E as quickly. Her occasional baby aspirin was pushing her further toward risk. And no one had told her to check for one important thing: her vitamin K levels. Vitamin K helps the blood clot. It works as a natural balance against vitamin E. Without enough of it, your blood can take longer to stop bleeding. In older adults, this balance becomes even more important, but it's rarely talked about. Margaret didn't know any of this. And why would she? There's no warning label that says, if you're over 60, talk to your doctor before using this long term. No reminder to check how your supplements interact with each other or with your age. She wasn't reckless. She was consistent. But the science she was relying on was outdated for her age. And this is where I need to speak directly to you if you're watching this right now and you've been taking vitamin E or any supplement for more than a few years. Has anyone reviewed it with you lately? Have you ever checked how it interacts with your medications, your age, or your current blood work? If not, it might be time. You don't need to stop everything cold. You just need clarity. That's what saved Margaret, and it could help you or someone you love avoid a completely preventable scare. If you've been thinking about your own supplement routine as you listen to this, take a moment now to like this video, not just to support this channel, but so YouTube shows it to more seniors who may be in Margaret's shoes without realizing it. Because this is happening quietly to a lot of people. And the good news? Once we understand the science, we can act on it before symptoms ever show up. In Margaret's case, we had caught it just in time. And that's where her real recovery began.
The first thing Margaret said when she came in for her next appointment was, "I wish I'd known all of this years ago." There was no anger in her voice, just relief. Relief that we'd caught it before something serious happened. Relief that she had a path forward. We sat down together and reviewed everything. Her supplements, her occasional medications, even her multivitamin. She brought them all in a Ziploc bag along with a notepad full of questions. That's the Margaret I knew. Organized, thoughtful, ready to learn. Together, we created a new plan. We reduced her vitamin E to a safer, age-appropriate level. We spaced it out with her other supplements and eliminated the baby aspirin unless specifically prescribed. Most importantly, we added more vitamin K-rich foods to her meals, like leafy greens and broccoli, not as medicine, but as part of her lifestyle. Margaret was surprised by how small the changes were. "That's it?" she asked. "Just a few adjustments?" "That's it," I said. "But done the right way, they make all the difference." And they did. Within a few weeks, the bruising faded, the nosebleeds stopped completely. Her energy slowly returned, and that cloud of worry that had been hanging over her started to lift. 6 weeks later, her repeat blood tests were normal. But the best part? She felt like herself again, only this time with peace of mind. Margaret's story isn't rare. In fact, once she opened up about it to her book club, 2 of her friends scheduled checkups within the month, and both discovered similar imbalances they'd never noticed before. One of them was Robert, 73, who'd been taking a high-dose antioxidant blend he bought online. He thought he was boosting his memory, but a simple check revealed it was interfering with his blood pressure meds. After a small change, his dizzy spells disappeared. Then there was Helen, 69, Margaret's neighbor. Her daughter had noticed bruises on her arms and brought her in. It turned out Helen was taking turmeric, fish oil, and vitamin E together, 3 natural blood thinners. Again, well-meaning choices, but once we reviewed everything and adjusted the doses, her energy and focus noticeably improved. These stories are why I do what I do. Because so often, seniors aren't dealing with illness, they're dealing with layers of good intentions that were never reviewed together. The truth is, you don't need to be afraid of supplements. You just need to understand how they work for your body right now, not the body you had 10 or 20 years ago. And that's what Margaret has come to appreciate most. She still walks every morning, still organizes her pill box every Sunday evening, but now she does it with a new sense of clarity and the confidence that she's giving her body exactly what it needs, no more, no less. If Margaret's story resonates with you, or if someone you love reminds you of her, give this video a thumbs up. It helps us reach more seniors who are trying to stay healthy but may be missing a key piece of the puzzle. And if you've had your own aha moment around supplements, feel free to share it in the comments. We read every one, and your story might help someone else. Because sometimes the smallest changes make the biggest difference. And as we move into the next part of this journey, I'll walk you through the exact steps you can take to review your own supplement routine, speak confidently with your doctor, and start making choices that truly fit your body at this stage of life. Let's take that step together. Margaret's recovery didn't come from a new medication or a complicated procedure. It came from clarity, from finally understanding how her supplements, her body, and her age were working together, or, in her case, working against each other. And that's exactly what I want for you. If you've been watching this and wondering what to do next, here's your step-by-step action plan. Nothing here is extreme. Everything is doable. But taken together, these steps can protect your health and even save your life. Step 1. Write down every supplement you take. Not just the ones you consider important. I'm talking about everything. Your multivitamin, fish oil, turmeric, magnesium, vitamin E, even the natural blends you found online or at the health store. Include how much you take and how often. If you're not sure, take the bottles with you to your next appointment. Many issues I've caught over the years started with a conversation like this. Doctor, I don't think it's relevant, but I also take this sometimes. Write it down anyway. It's all relevant. Step 2. Make a list of medications you use regularly or occasionally. Aspirin, ibuprofen, cold and allergy meds, heartburn tablets, even over-the-counter ones you only use when needed. You'd be surprised how many of them interact with vitamins in subtle ways. Especially after 60, your liver and kidneys may not clear these substances as efficiently, meaning they stay in your system longer than expected. This is where stacking effects, like Margaret's aspirin and vitamin E, can quietly turn into a problem. And that's exactly what I want for you. If you've been watching this and wondering what to do next, here's your step-by-step action plan. Nothing here is extreme, everything is doable, but taken together, these steps can protect your health and even save your life. Step 3. Ask your doctor or pharmacist these questions. Bring both lists with you and ask, do any of these interact with each other? Are any of these unsafe at my age or with my current health conditions? Should I be monitoring anything, like my blood levels or clotting function? Am I taking the right form and dose for my age? This is not about fear, it's about partnership. Your doctor isn't there to take things away, they're there to help you make informed choices. And this conversation could uncover imbalances you didn't even know were affecting your energy, your sleep, your mood, or your long-term health. Step 4. Ask about blood work, especially if it's been over a year. For many seniors, vitamin levels, clotting factors, and kidney liver function aren't often checked unless something is obviously wrong. But just because you feel okay doesn't mean everything's in balance. A simple blood test could reveal valuable information before symptoms even start. Step 5. Make adjustments slowly. If your doctor suggests reducing or stopping a supplement, don't panic. Changes don't have to be all at once. Most of the time, adjustments are gradual, shifting timing, changing brands, or lowering doses. And if a supplement is supporting you well, great! Now you can continue it with confidence, knowing it's truly right for your body. Bonus step. Talk to a loved one about it. Sometimes starting these conversations with family members or caregivers can make the process easier. They might even want to review their own routines alongside you.
And if you're planning to have this conversation with your doctor, or you've already had a light bulb moment during this video, drop a comment below. Your insight could be the reason someone else takes action too. This isn't about giving things up. It's about taking ownership of your health in a way that matches where your body is today, not where it was 10 years ago. Margaret didn't need to overhaul her life. She needed a few honest conversations, some small but important changes, and the support to follow through. And now she's thriving. In just a moment, I'll share how she's doing today and what you can take from her story to stay on the path of strength, clarity, and confidence. You're almost there.
It's been almost 6 months since that Tuesday, the day Margaret sat across from me in tears, wondering how everything she'd done to protect her health could have gone so wrong. Today, those tears are long gone. Margaret still wakes up at 6:30 every morning. She still walks the same 3 miles through a neighborhood. Her fridge is still stocked with vegetables, and she still calls her daughter Sarah every Sunday night. But now, there's a difference, a kind of quiet confidence that wasn't there before. She understands her body better. She knows what questions to ask. She knows that being proactive doesn't just mean taking more, it means knowing what works, what doesn't, and why. At her last checkup, she smiled as she handed me her updated supplement list. It was shorter, simpler, and perfectly tailored to her current needs. "I feel lighter," she told me, "not just physically, but mentally, like I finally have some breathing room." That's the gift I hope you take away from Margaret's story. Because what happened to her doesn't have to happen to you or to someone you love. If you're over 60, the most powerful thing you can do for your health isn't adding more pills, it's asking the right questions. It's reviewing what you're already doing with fresh eyes, and it's realizing that your body is changing, not in a way that needs fixing, but in a way that deserves understanding. That understanding leads to peace of mind. It's what gave Margaret her energy back. It's what gave Robert clarity after months of unexplained dizziness. It's what helped Helen feel steady again, physically and emotionally. And it's what I hope this video has given you, the beginning of clarity. The truth is, we're not taught how to age wisely. Most people aren't handed a new manual when they turn 60 that says, "Here's how your body works now." That's why I created this channel, to fill in the missing pages. Because this stage of life isn't about slowing down, it's about tuning in. Listening more closely, making smaller, smarter choices that honor where you are today. If this video has helped you feel more informed, more at ease, or more confident in your next step, consider subscribing to the channel. We're building a community of thoughtful seniors just like Margaret, who want to take their health seriously without fear, confusion, or overwhelm. Each week, we dive into simple, science-backed ways to support your body as it changes, from nutrition and movement to sleep, memory, digestion, and more. And speaking of memory, next week we'll be exploring a very different kind of story, one that begins with a retired teacher who started forgetting names and ends with a surprising fruit that's been quietly helping protect senior brains for generations. I can't wait to share it with you. Until then, take care of yourself, be kind to your body, ask the questions that matter, and remember, clarity is the first step toward confidence. We'll see you next time.